Welcome, Divine. This morning I got the notion to take a deeper look. Take a deeper look. So that is what I am going to do. And I just want a short spread for each group. Ooh. Oh, okay. Take a deeper look. This is a divine masculine, as you remember from last night. Oh, wow. There is quite a bit going on. That's what that's about. All right. Let's see. And then let's take a deeper look for divine feminine. All right. Take a deeper look for divine feminine. Hope you guys are doing well. I saw the comments on the dog. Love that. All right, divine feminine is reverse, reverse, reverse. Ooh. All right. Now this is going to be an interesting read. I can't wait to get into this. Let's do some clarifiers. Oh, and also the robbing the car. Let's just hope that is rob in connection to a car. We'll put that out there to affirm it to be something different, manifest something good there. Let's see. Ooh, wow, cards are flying everywhere. Are we going to use them? Are we? I think we are. But that is a lot of cups up there for the masculine. This reading right here is going to be interesting. And we have the earth for the feminine. Oh, wow. Just flying out. Okay. All right. So we will leave that one and we'll go for one more. And there it goes. All right. Queen of Cups, clarifying for the divine feminine. All right, so let's get these straightened up and get into it. This is gonna be good. All right, we have moved the feminine out of the way, and it is now directly looking into the masculine for that deeper look. And the first thing that comes up, I mean, this spread, and I'm telling you, the way I'm looking at it, all of these cards are leading to, it's almost like they're traveling to the clarifiers, which are all of these cups up at the top. And they all have an image just floating up into the water. So all of these are leading into that. And that's where they're headed. And that's the way I'm going to interpret this, because that's the way it's coming out to me. So we start out with the Hangman in reverse, which is okay. So then you are leaving that space. And what is the Hangman in reverse? That's that selfishness, the crowd, you know? So what is the Hangman in reverse headed to in the clarifier? It's headed to that Eight of Cups, a desire to move on, to search for something more meaningful, spiritual, and emotional growth. That's the desire that we have going on right now, and this is the beginning deeper look of the divine masculine. So when we look at this, generally in the present moment is where the masses are, you know, the majority of divine masculine who are moving along this season of union. And then we have where we began is where the masculines are moving out of, but there are still some there. And then when we get into the final, it's that future position where a lot of masculines are now are headed to. So we're looking at this, and this is the beginning onset of the masculine energy. And it's that, okay, so a desire to move on from the selfishness, the crowd. So this is looked at on a couple of ways that's coming to me. And what's coming to me is, okay, there are some very selfish ways about the divine masculine energy. Woo! And that is being lifted. That's being lifted. So I'm getting a desire to move on from those selfish tendencies of I have to always be thinking and looking out for me because nobody does, but seeing outside of themselves, being able to go to that placing of love, loving another person fully, you know. And it's interesting because, well, that's a good position. And also leaving the crowd. And when we go leaving the crowd, it's leaving the masses of the world is what I'm getting. And the reason I'm getting that is because I'm also getting that when we go into the spiritual and emotional growth, the divine masculine energy right here is they are not only aware of the spiritual fabrics of life, but they are starting to, and I'm getting look at the 3D world like pictures, almost like an unreal photoshopped picture. They're seeing the fakeness versus the realness, the fakeness versus the realness. And really what I'm getting with that is that they're seeing really behind the veil when it comes to their everyday life now. Before they were getting circumstances, and circumstances that would turn out to be a big whoop-de-doo in their life, and then they're starting to see the true colors of people and the differences. But now they're starting to recognize it in their everyday life. And it's creating this discontentment because they're starting to realize that none of this is not only something that I am no longer interested in or I no longer align with, but the divine masculine are starting to see from that spiritual eye. And what they're seeing from that spiritual eye is that this isn't even just about my individual desires, that they're starting to see this isn't even right. I'm getting there like, this isn't even right. You know, the way this is being done, the way that you're acting, the way that they're starting to see, I'm getting the dark and light, the dark and light, the dark and light is what they are seeing clearly in the everyday life. So it's not just seeing the difference of people, and it's interesting because I'm getting this coming up kind of where the divine feminine energy was before last night, but they are really on an everyday basis looking in their life, and they are saying, this isn't how things should be done. So they're starting to look at things from that heart view, which is that spiritual eye view. And they're having a desire to move away from the crowd because they're seeing straight through it. I'm getting seeing straight through it. I mean, the veil is just there. So it's getting really uncomfortable. Because it's almost as if everything that was everyday life seems as if it's fraud. Everything that was everyday life seems as if it's fake. And that's what that Polaroid picture is coming up and showing. And I'm getting that the divine feminine energy, that there are a lot within that dominant divine feminine energy that they recognize that they recognize I'm getting the inauthenticity of their environments is what's happened. And they're like, this isn't authentic at all. these relationships aren't authentic at all. So it's not just episode with the divine masculine energy now. I'm getting every day they're like, this isn't authentic. What you just said wasn't authentic. What you just did wasn't authentic. That's not authentic. That's not loving to myself, to you, to mankind, to the world. They're seeing in that picture view of the dark and light, which is very interesting because it's leading the divine masculine. We go into the tower. But when we go into the tower, remember that this reading is heading from this into this with the clarifier cards coming in. And the tower is that ruin, that misery, that distress, that calamity, which this is where a lot of the crowd lives in. You know, that's where a lot of people in the world live in those karmic cycles. And the divine masculine is saying, hey, I'm ready to move on from this. A desire to move on from this and grow spiritually and emotionally. This stuff don't even make sense to me no more. And moving into that space and going over to the tower, that it is creating towers, because the people that are around the divine masculine dominant energy right now are really seeing that the divine masculine is not with that anymore. I'm not with the crowd and I see through you. I'm not with the crowd and I see through you. And it's creating quite a calamity around the divine masculine energy. But it's kind of even just like what we were what we tapped into last night, that I'm getting with the divine masculine energy, is that even though those things were happening, the divine masculine was kind of rising, like that justice point. The divine masculine was rising and getting a lot of wins by speaking their truth. They recognized that things were working out in their favor. Well, this is kind of the same. So this is like leaving those towers, leaving that ruin and that misery and that distress and calamity. And this can be also on the divine masculine energy and the counterpart as well. Leaving constantly having to have those battles to bring you closer or to push you apart for those areas of growth. So it's kind of like I have a desire for that now. So there's no need for the resistance anymore. I have a desire to spiritually and emotionally grow, and you have a desire to spiritually and emotionally grow, so we don't have to go into this distress and misery and calamity and ruin every time someone decides to take off and ascend. We don't have to do that anymore, you know, because there's a desire for me to kind of go along with that. And I get clarifying that moving from that into that Ace of Cups, which is that falling in love, the resurgence of a relationship, spiritual growth, and enhanced intuition, you know, and also a new home. I'm also getting that, you know, many of you are going to find that many of the dominant divine masculines are relocating right now. That's in the masses, the middle, the present moment. So many of them are relocating right now, and it's literally going from tower to relocation. So a lot of those relocations are going to be abrupt. Abrupt relocations, change of home. And also what has happened on that bigger, well, even that counterpart level is, like we mentioned, leaving that position of having to go through those towers to relate to each other. And then also on the bigger masses level that we have going on is really the divine masculine energy is just leaving that lifestyle of dealing, that lifestyle of chaos and chaotic. You know, those towers is the way the divine masculine was just living in a lot of different areas. But going into that falling in love, you know, and really desiring to have that spiritual growth and that enhanced intuition, no longer resisting it. So we went from, okay, there's a desire to move on to have that spiritual growth, spiritual and emotional growth. And then it's like, oh man, so now we are here where I'm awakened and I am having that enhanced spiritual growth and enhanced intuition. So you'll probably recognize that many of your divine masculines are saying things that you're like, what? How do you know that? And then they're saying things that are even beyond, because they're not resisting it. They're not resisting that spiritual nature of themselves anymore. And if they are within your counterpart, if they're your counterpart, then you share that. You share that ability to tap into the levels at that frequency. Because if you believe in the principles of the twin flame journey, then there's a vibe between the twins, a dance between the twins, which lets you know there's a frequency of the twins, a whole vibe between the twins. So if you're able to get to those spaces, your twin is able to get to those spaces as well, and those levels of consciousness. It's just the fact of how they do it or how they use it, because energy can be utilized in many, many ways, but still hold the same component of energy. See, that's what's been showed to us. Like, you can go in the store, you can read something. It says, okay, it has this amount in it, it has this amount in it, but the shape is different. This is different. That is different. But it has that same amount. So that's the same thing that we have going on, that the divine masculine are really awakening to their spiritual natures. It's showing up differently than the divine feminine dominant energy, but it is there. So they are saying things, and the things that you are saying do not blow them at all. It is just a unison. And see, that moving into that stops that need to resist. Because again, those dominant divine masculine energies were not running away from what they desire more than anything. They were running away from what was new. They were like, wait a minute, I'm starting to have this spiritual stuff this is a little out there, this is a little out there. So that's a lot to take in. I even get, when I started awakening to my spiritual nature, I started out having a lot of dreams that were happening immediately, So it freaked me out for a bit. And I remember all I could do at that time period was go to the YMCA, and I just walked, and then I walked until I ended up running. And then I ended up turning into an entire running program to where I was running up to 6 miles a day. And, I wasn't a runner before that. But in actuality, I was running from my spiritual gifting, because I didn't know what to do with that. And nobody else around me, which is the masses, moving on from the masses. No one else around me was tapped into these spiritual things, So it's like, this isn't right. Something isn't right with you, is what you start thinking. And so you start running from it and the things that connect you to it. And that's what I would do initially. It was like, okay, well, if there was a dream about this person, a dream about that, whoever was connected to that, everything with that, just everything stopped. And then they started coming in more and more, and the numbers and all kinds of things, and the nature starts communicating with you, and the songs. It's just so much that starts to happen. And the divine masculine energy, that's becoming everyday life for the divine masculine dominant energy in this season coming through. It's becoming everyday life for them now as well, which is opposite of the crowd. So it's like they're seeing the spiritual fabric with the people around them aren't. So it's almost like they're seeing behind the veil now, while everyone in their world that they've kind of interacted with certain ways are still going about the show, is what it seems like. So that's why it's giving that appearance of fakeness. This is just literally because they're seeing behind the scenes a little bit more. They're using their spiritual eye and seeing what stuff really is and what it really isn't. So that's amazing how that's coming up. And then we go right on into, now we began with the desire to move into the 8 of Cups, was the desire. Well, guess where we end? The 8 of Cups. So we actually end in the 8 of Cups, so it's like, okay, that's that desire, and it's like, okay, and this is what I'm making happen. This is what I'm making happen. And when you look at the description of the Eight of Cups, it just says that the card can speak for itself. You know, if you ever look at the original description of it in the Rider-Waite, it says the card can speak for itself. So you see kind of walking away from those cups. And walking away from those cups and moving up into what we have right here is the Four of Cups, which is open your eyes to the possibilities. So it's like, oh, I see, I desire. I'm sitting in it. I'm moving away from this type stuff. It was an honor connecting with you. If you'd like me to read into your situation a little bit deeper, you can click the direct link down below and it take you right to an 8D Consciousness reading with me. If you'd like a one-on-one to meet with me, you can actually click the link under that and it'll take you directly to all you need to know to connect with me. And if you'd like to purchase my book, Generation Holds to Gold, Judi Walk, thank you to all who have purchased and said amazing things. It is a book with its own vibe. It's either going to light up an area of your life or show you where you've already lit an area of your life. Again, it's a book that I wrote that is the twin flame divine union journey, and I had no awareness that I wrote the book and it is the journey until I started reading for the collective. Thank you.